Christian traditions and pagan rituals intersect.
Do you know there are 5 rituals practiced inside the modern church every single week that Scripture never commanded? They were not given by the apostles. They were not taught by Jesus. They were absorbed from pagan worship centuries after the Bible was written. And most believers have no idea where they really came from. The first is the Christmas tree. Jeremiah chapter 10 describes it with chilling accuracy. They cut a tree from the forest. They shape it with an axe. They decorate it with silver and gold. They fasten it with hammer and nails so it will not move. The prophet wrote those words 600 years before Christ was born. He was not describing a holiday. He was describing a pagan practice already ancient in his time. The early church did not celebrate December 25th. That date belonged to the Roman festival of Sol Invictus, the sun god.
The tree came with it. The second
is sunrise worship facing the east. Ezekiel chapter 8 records the moment God showed the prophet the worst abomination happening in his own temple. 25 men with their backs to the altar, bowing toward the sun rising in the east. Scripture calls it detestable. Yet centuries later, the church absorbed sunrise services into Easter morning, a tradition borrowed directly from the worship of the goddess Ishtar, whose name the holiday still carries. The third is the use of religious statues and icons inside places of worship. The second commandment is unmistakable. You shall not make for yourself a carved image. You shall not bow down to them or serve them. The early church obeyed this for the first 300 years. Then Rome converted, and the statues of pagan gods were quietly renamed after saints. The same marble, the same posture, a new label. The fourth is the rosary, and the repetition of memorized prayers. Jesus himself warned in Matthew chapter 6, "When you pray, do not use vain repetitions as the heathen do, for they think they will be heard for their many words." The practice of counting beads while reciting the same phrase hundreds of times existed in Hindu and Buddhist worship long before it appeared in Christianity. Scripture is clear. God is not moved by repetition. He is moved by the heart. The fifth, and the one most believers never question, the halo, that golden ring painted behind the heads of Jesus, Mary, and the saints in nearly every classical church painting. It is not biblical. It originated in the sun disk symbolism of Egyptian and Roman gods, placed behind the heads of Ra, Apollo, and Mithras, to mark them as divine. The early church painted no halos. Rome added them after absorbing the iconography of the empire it had once been persecuted by. Scripture warned this would happen. Paul wrote to the Corinthians, "What fellowship has light with darkness? And what agreement has the temple of God with idols?" Yet for 17 centuries, the line has been blurred, so the real question is this. If 5 of the most familiar Christian rituals were never in the Bible, what else has been added to your faith that God never asked for?